Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Here's Eddie Frederick.
So glad you can join us. Governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, Timothy Antoine, says most cryptos will disappear. Dcash here to stay. This story takes the lead in today's edition of Caribbean Perspective for Wednesday, 8th March 2023. Details when we return.
Hubbard's Motor Department Mount Gay and Hubbard's Tire Bay, located at the Building Supplies Compound in Grand Anse, are reminding the motoring public that another round for licensing and inspection has begun. Just arrived on new shipments of quality furrowed and torque tires to fit all makes and models of vehicles at competitive pricing. Shop early to avoid the hassle of long lines. WhatsApp them on 473-405-5482. Hubbard's, quality service, affordable prices.
Welcome back. Governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, the ECCB, Timothy Antoine, is expecting the use of Dcash across the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union, the ECCU, to grow, while cryptocurrencies will essentially disappear. The governor, during the latest edition of Conversations with the Governor, aired on ZIZ radio and television and the ECCB Connect's social media platforms on Thursday, said, while some cryptocurrencies might still be in existence some years from now, digital currencies are here to stay. Andre Huey of SKN Newsline reports.
So I believe, to answer your question, a few cryptos may survive. Some of the stable coins that are pegged to something may survive, but I think many of them will disappear. What I know is going to continue are digital currencies backed by central banks. And that is why today, about 70-75% of all central banks in the world are pursuing digital currencies. They're either doing the research, they're establishing pilots, or they've announced launches. Bank of Canada, Bank of England, China, they have all done or are doing digital currencies like we have done. So I think you will see central bank digital currencies.
Mr. Antoine made the distinction between crypto and digital currencies.
Cryptos are unregulated, very often without underlying value or assets. So unlike Dcash, which is a digital currency, not a cryptocurrency, Dcash is regulated. It's actually distributed by the central bank through financial institutions or agents. It had the full fit and backing of the ECCB, the balance sheet of the ECCB, just as our paper or polymer currency. It's the same currency, it's in digital form. Regulated, has underlying value in terms backed by a central bank. Cryptos are not. Cryptos are basically speculation. If you look at the value of Bitcoin today, when I checked, I think it's around, 26,000 thereabouts? At one point, it was 60-something thousand. The EC dollar has been 2.7 to 1 to the US dollar since 1976. That hasn't changed, even in the pandemic. The crypto is up and down, up and down. So they're being used for speculation. There are over 19,000 cryptocurrencies in the world. To answer your question, I think most of these cryptocurrencies will disappear. That's my personal view. Because there is a real concern, and I think you saw it with what happened with FTX in the Bahamas. Well, headquartered in the Bahamas, FTX was all over the world. You've seen it with other crypto exchanges last year. Cryptos have to be regulated.
Dcash was one of the first digital currencies in the world to be launched by a central bank. The Eastern Caribbean Central Bank publicly launched its historic Dcash pilot on the 31st of March, 2021. I'm Andre Huey for SKN Newsline.
Bank of Jamaica Governor Richard Biles does not believe the elevated levels of regulatory responsibility now vested in the central bank as a result of assuming oversight of deposit-taking institutions and non-bank financial institutions will stymie the market. Instead, he highlighted the potential benefits it is likely to afford customers. CVM Live has more.
Having been appointed chairman of the newly constituted Financial Services Commission Board in January, after the resignation of the existing board chair as a result of the fallout from the Commission's handling of allegations of fraud at securities dealer SSL. Bank of Jamaica Governor Richard Biles engaged with members of the diaspora on the implications of the development for the financial sector during the Let's Connect Zoom meeting hosted by Ambassador to the United States, Audrey Marks.
One of the weaknesses that we have, which we hope to correct with the twin peaks of supervision, is that the legislation that governs consumer relations with the banks is not strong enough and is not specific enough to deal with issues like that. The Bank of Jamaica has an act that is hundreds of pages long, but there's nowhere in there that we can say to banks, you can't charge so much for this, you can't do so and so, you have to respond to customers in such and such a time. We need a specific piece of legislation that deals with consumer relation issues like that.
The central banker provided some indication as to how long the process of reform may take.
In about 2 years' time, we should get legislation that will give the FSC great powers in respect of issues like that, charging too much and charging too many fees. You will get that kind of strengthening of the legislation.
Concerns were raised as, in the interim, the central bank becomes the sole prudential regulator for all financial entities. However, Governor Biles suggests that the Twin Peaks model, where regulation and monitoring of the financial service sector become distinct responsibilities, will ultimately lead to better outcomes for the sector.
I think that in the end, we're going to get a structure that is far more efficient, far more effective, better for the consumer, better for stability. So it's a contribution, so to speak, that we are prepared to make.
Joel Crosskill, CVM Live.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick.
Brace for protest. Teachers plan more action demanding better wages. More in this TVJ News item with Andrea Chisholm.
TVJ News has been informed that several teachers are planning industrial action this week to force the government to make an improved wage offer. The Jamaica Teachers Association, in the meantime, says teachers will also be meeting this week to make a decision on the government's wage offer under the Compensation Review Program. The JTA is among several groups which have so far rejected the offers under the Salary Structuring Program. Speaking on Radio Jamaica's Jamaica Teachers Association this evening, LaSonia Harrison said a decision will be made.
Opportunity to come online, hear for him or herself what have been the developments since the last special conference held on February 3rd. And so they have been charged to go find their delegates and give them a mandate come March 8th.
She says the delegates have been holding spot meetings with teachers across the island in the weeks to discuss the package.
Frustrated with the process in light of our, individual circumstances. That's not lost on us and certainly not on me as president, but it is very important that as we go forward, we want to ensure that month to month we are able to live on that whenever it is that we do come to an agreement.
Antigua and Barbuda's Education Minister Daryl Matthew wants the society to take advantage of the educational offerings to ensure continued national development. He was speaking at a church service at the St. John's Pentecostal House of Restoration Ministries, marking the official start of the celebration of Education Month. Sherilyn Biza of ABS News reports.
Education Month is being celebrated under the theme Building Forward Better. Portfolio Minister Honorable Daryl Matthew expounds on this theme.
We want to construct something by putting particular pieces in place to get something larger. We want to move forward in a direction towards our aspirations and our goals. And we want to do it so that we can achieve something that is more desirable, more satisfactory, and more effective than what we already have.
He says to achieve this, the government, ministry officials, educators, parents, and students must all work together. Minister Matthew says that aspiration can be achieved as the education circle is closed, with early childhood education centers, primary and secondary schools, technical and vocational training, and tertiary institutions.
What is now required is for that circle to be taken advantage of by all of those persons within our society.
The Education Minister notes education is the most effective way of improving an individual or family's quality of life and lifting people out of poverty.
It's important that a country like ours, a developing country, puts the requisite investment in educating our people, in educating persons like yourself, so that we can move forward, we can move in a direction that we aspire towards.
Minister Matthew challenges the youth to do the right thing, even when it's not the most popular thing. Pastor of the Lebanon and Enon Moravian churches, Reverend Nevin Lewis, in his ministry of the word, advised teachers, administrators, and leaders in education to understand their position greatly impacts students.
It has a multiply effect when we change the life of a child. And that child may eventually reach people that you will never meet and go to places we will never go. And that is why I love your theme, because we have to build forward better.
Sherilyn Biza, ABS News.
The Inter-American Development Bank, the IDB, has called on Caribbean countries to renew their efforts to tackle several issues plaguing the region, including climate events. The calls were made at the IDB's consultation with Caribbean governors at the Hyatt on Monday. This TTT News item tells us more.
On his first official visit to the Caribbean, newly installed IDB President Ilan Goldfein noted that the organization is uniquely positioned to support the Caribbean in rising to its challenges, especially to deal with frequent and costly natural disasters. He said the IDB continues to provide support to the region to strengthen its fiscal sustainability, as well as to address climate change issues, noting there must be innovative ways to prepare and react with agility to natural disasters.
That we should be motivated and inspired to do more in this new phase. Last year, the IDB group approved almost $1.2 billion for the Caribbean countries. I'll tell you that that's more than double the previous year and 4 times pre-pandemic levels.
He added that the IDB has also invested in specific projects to assist Caribbean nations.
In Suriname, we approved a program to help provide solar energy to villages in remote areas. Here in Trinidad and Tobago, we approved a program to address inequality and inclusion by improving the water supply for about 1.3 million people. This will also improve health and commercial activity in marginalized areas.
And Planning and Development Minister Penelope Beckles-Robinson reiterated the need for action as it pertains to climate change issues, noting the negative effects to the Caribbean due to rising sea levels and coastal erosion.
The cost of inaction is extremely high. Projections indicate that cumulative losses could total $22 billion annually by the year 2050, a figure representing approximately 10% of the Caribbean's economy.
The consultation aims to consolidate the IDB's group support for the Caribbean in preparation for its annual meeting in Panama in mid-March. Sonolala, TTT News.
Hubbard's is once again innovating the way you shop with its new online store, providing 24-hour shopping convenience. You can shop now for appliances, hardware, houseware, building material, and more. Free delivery island-wide. Start shopping now at hubbardshardware.gd. Safe, convenient, reliable.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please continue to log on to CaribbeanPerspective.com for more daily news and more.